Deserve to have the best physical, mental, spiritual, zealous wellness with Mike Hollis.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis. I'm your host, and looking forward to new NFL football season, which starts in, I believe, a week or so. I think the Hall of Fame game might be next Sunday. I could be off. I don't remember. But regardless, I got a funny Hall of Fame story for you. I was going to say Hall of Fame game, but it's Hall of Fame in general. I've been to the Hall of Fame 3 times in my life, and I've been there 3 years in a row, around the same time every year. The first time I was there, my Idaho Vandals, we made the playoffs my senior year at Idaho, and we went and traveled to Youngstown State, which is in Ohio, and to play them. We lost the game, but prior to that game, our coach took us on a little short bus ride to Canton, Ohio, to see the Hall of Fame. So I thought that was super cool. So I got a little hint of the Hall of Fame to see what it was all about. And then the very next year, I had signed with the San Diego Chargers, and lo and behold, we played in the Hall of Fame game. So the Chargers and the Atlanta Falcons played in that game in 1994 Hall of Fame game. So guess what? I was back there again. Super cool. But that time I was there to play in the game, of course. So that was super cool as well. And then the following year, after when I had signed with the Jaguars, because Jaguars were a brand new franchise, and so were the Carolina Panthers, we had a Hall of Fame game that year too to introduce. Clearly, I mean that was only fitting to introduce both new NFL franchises at the same time, of course, with the Hall of Fame game. And we actually ended up winning that game. Desmond Howard scored a touchdown late in the game, and I didn't kick the extra point. Scott Sisson did, but I had one kick in that game, and it was again, I'm literally a first year guy, kind of more or less a rookie, and I tried hard, of course, and like learning from my mistakes, of course. And I eventually I had one kickoff, and that ball went around the 18-yard line, we'll say. It was not a good kick at all, and it was such a mishit. I was so embarrassed. However, the good news is it was like an onside kick because they didn't catch it, and it bounced around. And guess who? Jaguars, we jumped on it, so we got the ball, and maybe that has something to do with us winning. I don't know, but clearly I'm not taking responsibility for winning the game. I do take responsibility for a horrible kickoff, which was not a good first impression. I thought at that point, I'm like, man, what am I doing here? This is crazy. I just messed up my opportunity. But Tom Coughlin was very, very, appreciative of me being there and gave me more opportunities. And so at that point, we after that game, Scott Sisson and I kind of alternated kicks, and so we got an even amount of kicks both ways, and for all the games we had, and I eventually beat him out. So, but I met I was a good friend of mine actually here in Jacksonville. I was hanging out with him on Saturday, and he said, "Yeah, my buddy Scott Sisson I went to school with." I'm like, "Wait, what?" And I said, "Yeah, it's such a good dude, And so we always have these great stories about kickers in the past, but. Today, what we're going to talk about, let me get on track here. We're just storytelling time, right? Get on track here. We'll talk about sprinting. I think that, things that I learned as a kicker, and this isn't really my main point about sprinting, because as a professional athlete, sprinting is, anaerobic type of workouts, explosive stuff that you're doing all the time. That's just part of the job. And so that was just something that kind of introduced me to this whole concept of sprinting. But I'm going to talk about sprinting more of a health benefit. When I just got certified in holistic health coach from Primal Coach Institute, Primal Health Coaching Institute, they talked a lot about movement, and they talked a lot about sprinting. And I think about sprinting for people that might be out of shape or not really in any shape whatsoever to sprint. You sprint at your own pace. Just the movement, you making that movement and allowing your body to get it is a full body workout. If you think about it, it's very, very, high, fast twitch muscle fiber, explosive type of stuff. And it adds for coordination. I mean, I'm going to go over a lot of benefits in the show, of course, but that is part of the agility part, the high intensity training, the agility things that you're doing as a professional athlete. those are incredibly important because everyone's doing them and you got to be on top of it. And so that's the thing we're going to talk about with sprinting today with regards to, how is sprinting better than maybe running, like long endurance and endurance running, distance running, long distance running. You couple sprinting with a good, resistance training exercise program, you're going to get the best of both worlds, plus a healthy nutrition diet, things like that. So again, it's a lifestyle change, but when you start feeling, again, going back to this hump I always talk about in all these episodes, we always refer to, is not all the time, but typically I do like to mention, like, listen, it happened to me. I just didn't give myself enough time to get over the hump and embracing the suck long enough to actually feel the benefits of what it is I'm trying to change. And that's a word to the wise right here. That's a piece of advice from someone who's lived it. Understand that it's going to suck for a while, and it might suck long term. And I'm using that word kind of like weird, but it not to scare you away. Like, oh, he says it sucks. Oh, I want to do that. I don't want to do something that sucks. Well, how important is your health to you? And you'll get to a point where you're embracing the suck so much that it doesn't become so sucky. It's not so bad after a while. It becomes your lifestyle. I just hit 1,300. That's 1,300 boxing classes at Title Boxing Jacksonville. Okay. I just hit that a week ago or so, a couple weeks, maybe, I can't remember. But my point is, and people are all, oh my gosh, 1,300. I'm like, I just been consistently going. What's so big? It's not a big deal. It's just that I just show up, and they always say showing up is half the battle. You've already completed the hardest part, was showing up. And now you just do the easy part. Well, it's not really like that. But, once you get started and you get into this mindset and you just, your mind goes blank. And again, that's the routine I keep talking about with this lifestyle thing. You change up your lifestyle a little bit, and then it becomes your habit. It becomes your ritual. And add sprinting to that. You have to, again, I'm thinking, because I was telling my producer, Jason, right before the show, I was like, I talk about sprinting myself. And there's a lot of things that I've always, have I always had a sprinting program? No. Do I need a sprinting program? Yes. I would like one. I'm down to 170 pounds now. I'm feeling great. And you just heard me. I want to incorporate another sprinting program. And I'm thinking, it's really hot outside right now, and I'm out there coaching. I'm sweating like, why in the world would I want to go out here and on this hot turf and do some sprinting? So guess what? I know that there's a treadmill inside Title Boxing. So guess what I'm going to start doing? I'm going to start doing some sprints on the treadmill. Okay. So that's my commitment. What's yours? So that's kind of the premise of what we're going to talk about today is making that commitment for things that you may not feel comfortable about doing at first. But again, understanding once you get over that hump that these things will start to be part of your life and not so sucky. Okay. So with that said, we'll watch a quick commercial break and we'll get back. We'll talk right into sprinting.
It is possible. It's different this time. I'm showing up for myself because now I know that weight isn't about effort alone. It's not just calories in, calories out. For years, the world told us it was simple. Eat less, move more, try harder. But science has shown us it's more complex than that. It's a real metabolic condition. That's where GLP-3 comes in. Powered by MBC 267, a naturally derived peptide complex discovered in salmon from the Norwegian Sea and select mushrooms. GLP-3 works with the body's own system to help manage appetite and support metabolic balance. No fighting your body, no forced outcomes, just support where it actually matters. Because when you address the real factors at play, progress feels possible. I'm becoming the best version of myself. This is me and GLP-3.
And welcome back. So sprinting, I know people are like, oh my gosh, sprinting, are you kidding me? Now sprinting does not need to be, I know the first thing you think about when sprinting is like, oh my gosh, I'm like sprinting, like I got to run like 40-yard dashes at 100 miles an hour as fast as I can, 100%, No, you don't. A sprint could be a fast jog, depending on what kind of level of fitness you're involved in. I haven't done a lot of running, and I'll be honest with you, I don't like long endurance running, and I'll start with that. I think, and I've heard from actually one of my punters that moved down here from Baltimore many, many years ago. He actually runs a CrossFit facility. He has been for many, many years. He met his wife here in Jacksonville, by the way, which is super cool. Actually, I didn't even finish the story. He met his wife here in Jacksonville, but after talking, they were both in the military, and they grew up literally like 2 minutes apart from each other up in Massachusetts. It was Massachusetts. It wasn't Baltimore. It was up in Massachusetts. Isn't that crazy? It just blows my mind that it's such a small world. Anyways, Ryan was his name. Ryan got really big into fitness. He was a big built bodybuilder kind of looking guy. And he was a punter, and he would just try to smack the ball every time. And so he didn't really make it as a punter. He had a good leg, but just, kind of fizzled out and didn't take that the next step. But he got really involved in fitness down here and opened up a CrossFit gym. But he did a lot of research on a lot of stuff, clearly. And I remember talking to him one time, and he goes, I have a theory. You may not agree with it. You might think I'm crazy, but I think running makes you fat. I'm like, I'm actually open to hearing this, because I think that, yeah, you think about these long distance runners, these all marathon people, they're all skinny. Okay, well, most of those people, if you know them, they've been skinny all their lives. Have they been running all their lives? Well, maybe, but they've been skinny all their lives. But I don't think, you don't think about long distance runners as really heavy. But I do think that I'm not saying I'm agreeing with Ryan here totally, but I can't remember all the things he was talking about. But I know that there were some similarities with things that I'm like, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. Like, you're putting a lot of stress on your body. It's sending different hormones. And in long distance, we weren't placed on this earth as human beings to be running long distance. Think about back in the early days of life, where we're running around chasing, our prey, chasing food, we're trying to kill animals to eat. Well, yeah, you're not going to be chasing whatever you're trying to kill for miles. I mean, maybe over a few days, you're going to be following them, preparing for the ambush, but you're not going to be long distance running to chase your prey down. It's going to be really quick. You're going to sneak up, make it real fast. And that's how we as humans, we're meant to kind of be, as far as that's concerned. Then you fast forward to today and think about all these really, crappy foods we're eating because we're lazy, and all these big, huge companies are making these foods, making them addictive for us and keeping us away from eating healthier and those kind of things. And so I think we need things to, combat that stuff. So when you think about exercise and the way your body is functioning and how it's supposed to, the benefits. And then when I start naming some of these benefits off of sprinting, from sprinting, you're going to be like, wow, I didn't realize some of those things were that important, and how sprinting can really affect my life in a positive way that way. Even though, yes, they are not fun to do. Now, I'll give you one thing. Now, if you're out there running long distance, if you're addicted to that long distance type of running, you're going to be out there for maybe an hour, maybe 30, 45 minutes, whatever. Sprinting can be a lot quicker if you want to make it quicker. You won't be, spending a lot of time, on the road, beating up your feet and your ankles and your hips and your knees even. And, guys like football players, of course, we've been on our feet quite a bit during our NFL careers and things like that. So running long distance is probably the last thing anybody wants to do as far as a, retired athlete, because we did that a lot. Anyways, one of the reasons I didn't like soccer was it was too, demanding on the endurance part. And I don't have endurance. My body was not made for endurance. My athletic trainer at University of Idaho, I got hurt one time. My ankle bothered me or something during one of our, mat drills, they called them, early in the morning workouts, trying to weed out the ones that couldn't make it, as far as, they were excruciating. They were very difficult, incredibly difficult to do. So he had mentioned to me, so he looked at me right now. He says, "You're not an endurance runner, are you?" And I said, "Heck no, I don't like these. I'm tight. My calves are tight all the time." And so, anyways, long story short, I just learned that sprinting was more my style. And a matter of fact, a personal story. When I was playing in the NFL, the year that I went to the Pro Bowl, the year that I led the NFL in scoring, the year I scored the most points in the NFL of all players, the year I did, I was 31 to 36 on field goals, and I had a really good season. I felt really good. Well, guess what? That was the season that I ran the most. I started off the season really hot, and I started this pace. I'm like, man, this is a good pace. If I keep this up, I can, maybe play in the Pro Bowl. And so that kind of got my fire lit a little bit there. And so I did a lot of running. That's what my training, I said, I'm going to commit to running my butt off this year and doing as many sprints as I can, not to overdo it, but I want to really work hard for this. I'm really going to push it. And I did. Not to say I didn't push it every year, but that year I just pushed it a little bit more. And that was the year I felt the best. And that was the year I kicked the best. And so I know sprinting for me personally helped me out in that aspect. But I'm going to give you some things from Primal Health Institute and so forth, and just some facts about sprinting. So sprinting is one of the highest return forms of exercise for overall health. It can improve heart health, fat loss, and metabolic health. It can improve muscle mass and strength, clearly, mitochondrial function and energy, even brain health and cognition, bone density, hormonal health, healthy aging, and longevity. Okay, so for most healthy adults, 2 to 3 sprinting sessions per week. When you combine that with 2 to 4, days of resistance training as well, those are like your peak. When you get those two involved, that's kind of like it's the best for your maybe some light aerobic activity, maybe walking, things like that. It's an excellent balance for your optimal health. Okay. Sprinting recruits nearly every major muscle group while placing high demand on your cardiovascular and nervous system. Even a few short sprints per week can produce significant health benefits. I'll read that again. Even a few short sessions per week can produce significant health benefits, which include cardiovascular health. We just talked about that a little bit. It improves your heart strength and your efficiency. It increases your VO2 max, which is basically your body's ability to use oxygen. It lowers your resting heart rate over time. Okay, it can improve blood pressure. It enhances circulation and vascular health. Okay, it's also really good for fat metabolism. Clearly, if you kind of understand. And one of the things that I learned too is with this fat metabolism, in the hormones too, it just, you get into that epigenetic part of your body and teaching your hormones how to turn back on and be useful again through epigenetics. And this is a key for your epigenetics as well, is getting these sprints in, and it teaches your body how to do that. And so I've noticed there's a lot of people who have discovered sprinting who have lost a lot of weight just by sprinting. Now, again, they're not doing long distance stuff. Yeah, they might be doing some resistance training, but just sprinting alone, you will find the weight will start shedding off, just stripping off of you. Like, wow, what's happening here? So I highly recommend just give it a shot. Now, don't do it just for a couple times. You need a good month or so of somewhat consistent, maybe once or twice a week. Get out there and do 10 hundreds if you want to, or whatever you want to. Again, these don't have to be long distance sprints. They don't have to be like 30-yard dash, 100-yard sprints. Now, again, define your own sprint. It's up to you. Define your rest too, by the way. That's one thing you have to understand too. Is it's not going to make them suck as bad. When you're doing sprints back to back, that's hard. Believe me, we had to do that in football for our conditioning tests, and they were not hard. They were not easy. They were incredibly difficult. I remember my legs almost like I almost fell on the last. We call them the 300-yard shuttle. It was 60 yards back and forth 5 times, and then you had I think a minute rest, and you had to do it again. And you had to be under a certain time. Oh my gosh, that was difficult. So my point in all that, going back to what I was saying before, is the fat loss. You'll notice a big decrease in your fat loss and the energy production as well. You start to see that. So fat loss and metabolism burns a large number of calories in a short period of time, which I kind of more or less said. Creates a strong afterburn effect. Where you continue burning calories after the workout. That's what I really felt that when I was working out a lot, even a couple hours after my workout, I felt that my metabolism was working. I felt energetic. I was not one to burn out. So again, it has to do with you got to get into that shape, and you'll start to feel that. You'll start to feel that your body is still working hours after you've finished your workout, your sprinting workout. So it also helps reduce visceral belly fat. It improves insulin sensitivity, reducing the risk for type 2 diabetes. Insulin is a very big problem. A lot of people have that insulin resistance. And so this could help with that as well. So hormonal benefits as well. That's another good one. Sprinting naturally stimulates several beneficial hormones. Growth hormone, which supports recovery and tissue repair. Testosterone, especially in men, of course. Adrenaline. How about that one? And so that endorphins. Okay, so those are mood enhancement type of things. So you're going to feel better. It's a good feeling when you're done sprinting. Of course, you're like, okay, thank God I'm done with that. But just knowing that you've done the work and now your body's kind of, reaping the benefits of the work you put in. Okay. So muscle strength, as I mentioned before at the beginning, you're using a full body. It's a full body workout. You're using basically every muscle group in your body when you do these sprints. Okay. So unlike long distance running, as I mentioned before, sprinting helps preserve and build muscle. It particularly develops the glutes, the hamstrings, the quadriceps, calves, core, hip flexors. It also recruits fast twitch muscle fibers, which naturally decline with age if they're not trained. You think about the fast twitch muscle fibers and think about speed and agility. As we're young and really athletic, obviously, when you train those, you're going to be at the best of your best, right? So that's clearly at the pinnacle of sports. And you think about the highest level of football, these guys are getting us to that stage. When we did our off-season programs, we not only lifted, I think we ran every single day. We did some sort of on-the-field agility work every single day that we worked out. We worked out 4 times a week during the off-season. And I say that meaning we did both lifting. Lifting was a big deal. Not so much for me as a kicker. I'd rather not stay in the weight room too much. I'll work on my core, maybe some leg stuff, but I never went really heavy. As a younger, my first couple of years in the NFL, before my back really started hurting, I was doing a lot of the heavy squats and power cleans that they were telling me to do because I didn't know any better. I didn't want to be, hey, that kicker, like I don't want to do this. I didn't want to be that guy. So it kind of ended up turning out to kind of bite me in the butt because I did get, I threw my back out many times in the weight room because I was doing too many heavy lifting. And of course, when you get in that level and you're getting, your friends around, your teammates around, they're pushing you and you're trying to impress. And so I remember one year, man, people were saying, man, he looks like a bodybuilder. They were commenting, thinking I'd look like a bodybuilder. And I'm looking at myself like, I don't think I'm that big. And then I kind of got to thinking, I'm like, man, I have put on a lot of weight. And it was, I wasn't kicking bad. I was kicking fine, but I didn't realize how big and bulky I got. And I don't know if I want to be big and bulky. I'm not into all that kind of stuff. I don't want, in my opinion with kickers, of course, is why I tell my kickers, don't be spending a lot of time in the weight room. You're going to be just like I was as far as, trying to impress your buddies and get, being pushed to get your one rep max and trying to kind of, improve every day on your bench press and all this. I'm like, how many times as a kicker, like, what does the bench press help you in? Does it make you kick the ball farther if you bench more weight? No, just puts more weight on your upper body, which you don't really need, in a sense. So I'm a big fan of agility work. And if you are lifting, again, this is for kicking, of course, but if you're in lifting in the weight room and your coach demands that you lift weights, I would just stick with lower weights, higher reps. Okay. Cause you're going to get more usage out of your muscles instead of that explosive muscle type of thing, the action. And what I tell my kickers too, I said, listen, if you're in there squatting, 500 pounds, your brain is telling you, man, I'm going to kick the ball really far today because I can squat 500 pounds. Well, guess what you're going to do? You're going to swing your leg really hard because you're strong, right? Well, that goes way against everything that I've taught you, little Johnny. I'm speaking, of course, to my kids, and I'm like, my kickers, I'm like, listen, getting in the weight room and being really strong with lifting weights is not necessarily going to make you a stronger kicker. It might even hurt you even worse. You're going to be swinging so aggressively because you think you can kick it far now because, again, you're muscling the ball down the field that your form just takes a back seat. And you develop bad habits because of that aggressive swing because your brain says you can because I'm strong. I squat 500 pounds. So I wanted to get their mindset away from that. So let's focus again on the health benefits of the natural person, not the athlete, of course, but when you think of longevity and think about it, I'm a huge fan. Clearly, I talk about it all the time. I'm a huge fan of living as long as I can and anti-aging. I want to, I'm trying to turn the clock backwards. Okay, so when you think about longevity, it says research suggests that a sprint style training can improve your mitochondrial function, as we mentioned before. It increases your metabolic flexibility. It also reduces biological markers associated with aging. Okay, how about that one? So it'll help maintain the muscle mass as you age. And one of the strongest predictors of healthy aging is muscle mass. I've been hearing a lot lately about when you're, so when you have muscle mass. Now you can look at this in the weight room too. Yes, when you're lifting weights, you're putting muscle on. As you get older, one of the major causes of decrease in aging, in the sense of getting unhealthy as you age, is the fact that you're not working your muscles. Because muscles, again, they're gonna help with the bone density, as we talked about. You think about the older people that don't do much and can't do much really, but there's also old people that can, and they have been for a while. That's my point. When older people can't move as much as they used to move, and they don't move much at all, and they're frail because they don't have the muscle mass, they had to start somewhere. Now maybe they've been pretty thin all their lives, but I'm telling you that the longer you live in your life, the more maintenance on your muscles and the longevity of living, as in exercise and nutrition and keeping your body in its fittest shape. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be out there running marathons and doing all kinds of crazy exercises as older people, but you do what you can, right? Obviously. So understanding that those things will help you in the long run, it will lengthen your life. Heart health, clearly, you talk about having a strong heart, the muscle density. There's all kinds of the hormonal things that are changing in your life as you get older. Those things are affected in a positive way with exercise. Now, I'm referring to both weight room and sprinting, but I'm telling you, there's a very big benefit to sprinting. Okay, so thinking about those kind of things. Bone and joint health, which is pretty much what I was just talking about before. Sprinting may increase brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, as they call it, which supports learning and memory. It's improve mental sharpness. It reduces stress. It enhances mood. It improves resilience to anxiety and depression. That's another thing that I really took it was very intriguing to me to learn as I was studying for my holistic health coach certification, that sleep and stress relief and keeping you from being too stressed, that those two things are imperative. I'm not a very stressful person. I'm a very optimistic, outgoing, upbeat kind of person. I get mad at slow drivers. That's the only thing I get mad at. Yes, you can call that stress. I don't really call it stress. And cortisone is risen when you're stressed and all that stuff. So when you get out and exercise, the cortisone's there. It's it's in your body, but it's used in a better way. Of course, it's not that stress sort of cortisone that's putting weight on and all that stuff. Because they do talk about the higher the if you don't have much very good sleep and or you're too stressed out on a daily basis, your cortisone levels are off the chart, and they're off the chart, meaning high, during the times you don't need them because of the stress. And when your cortisone levels are high, you got all kinds of problems if you're not burning calories. Of course, you're not in the middle of a stressful situation, whether you're working out or whatnot. So watch out for that as well. So the mitochondrial, or the athletic performance, obviously will come with the sprinting as well. Sprinting develops explosive power, acceleration, balance, coordination, reaction time, and agility. Now, when you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, who's looking for that? Not very many people, but it is wise to maintain as much of that as possible, because again, it extends your life. It prolongs your life, and you'll be happy and healthy longer than you would if you didn't. I know, again, we talk about embracing the suck, but understand that part of that is a process of you adapting to a different lifestyle. That's a very important part, because we are all, I'm including myself, because I lived it, we are all afraid of making too much change and committing to something that might be difficult. Maybe we didn't realize it was going to be that difficult. I've quit on things that I thought, well, I didn't realize. My Series 7 test, I'll be honest with you. When I got to with a buddy of mine after retiring from the NFL, I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do. He said, hey, come work with me at our firm. And this is an investment firm. We sell hedge funds. I'm like, oh boy, I don't know if I want to do that. Oh man, it's great money if you can do it. Well, we require you to have your Series 7 test. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. Man, I was about a month into that. I'm like, my brain, I just could not. I'm not very good at math. I don't memorize real well. I like to study things over time, and it just wasn't for me. And I will admit it in front of everybody and God as well, as I did. He knows. I quit on that because it didn't fit me. And again, I'm not ashamed of it, because I don't think I would have felt any good things out of it. But besides the point. When you're thinking about exercise, you think about sprinting, you're thinking about doing a lifestyle change. These are the commitments. Now, again, you can make it easier this is not something that you have to study for a series and pass a test at a certain time. These are things that you're doing on your own. You can pace yourself. I tell people to pace themselves all the time. They don't have to be heroes, especially in boxing. I've seen so many people walk in there, their first round, like, oh, I'm going to try this boxing thing. And they just wear out the bag in the first couple rounds. And by round 3 or 4 or 5, they're sitting on the bench, packing up their stuff, about ready to walk out. I've seen it happen a lot because they just wear themselves out, especially when you're not used to it. Okay. And so I always say that you don't have to be a hero. Again, if you're going to incorporate a sprinting exercise into your program, into your daily routine, into your life, you don't have to make it. And again, if you make it hard at first, you're probably not going to want to do it at all. So baby steps. I am a very huge advocate of taking things one step at a time, improving one day at a time. I've always told my athletes, I've always told you guys, people who need some sort of way to think about life in general, I say this, listen, every day that you, at night, when you walk in the bathroom, you look at yourself in the mirror, you tell yourself that you did the best you could under the circumstance you were given that day. If you have said that to yourself and you've been honest with yourself, then you have succeeded. You didn't fail at anything because you did the best you purposely did, honestly did, the best you could have done on that day. Okay. Then you take it a step further. The next day you try to improve a little bit more. There are days you're going to go backwards a little bit. That's okay. We all do it. Right. So again, when you try to, and you're thinking about incorporating running and stretching, I've almost said stretching, but I will throw that in there too. Stretching exercise. Just know that it's not going to be easy at first, but you can make it progressive. Okay. So don't kill yourself on the first time. Okay. So the time efficiency, I mentioned that earlier. A simple routine might be, warming up for 10, 15 minutes, sprinting for 10 to 20 seconds, about 90 to 95% effort. Now this information is for people who are more experienced in sprinting. So I wouldn't recommend that for somebody that hasn't done it much at all and is not really ready yet. I would say like 50%, 60%, maybe 70%, maybe. Okay, when you first starting to do these things. And again, the rest is not that big of a deal. Rest 1 to 3 minutes between each sprint. That's a long time. You think about 3 minutes. That's a long time. Now, again, when you get into shape, you're going to take less time because you're going to be like, you're breathing. You're going to start noticing like, wow, I'm breathing normal right now. I can go right now. If my legs feel fine, I'm going. And you'll start to notice your resting periods will be a lot quicker. So you repeat 6 to 10 times every time. Cool down for 5 or 10 minutes. You'll be done. 20 to 30 minutes. You're off the field and you're ready to go, or you're off the treadmill. You can do the treadmill. Be careful on the treadmill though. I'm going to encourage you to do it on the treadmill if you want to be inside. I'm kind of choosing to be inside because it's too hot here in Florida right now. But I'm going to be inside, maybe do some sprinting on the treadmill, like I said. But you got to be careful because that wheel is running pretty quick. That belt is going, and when you get done with your sprint, you got to get off and get your feet off of it now. Okay. And then rest for however long. And then when you're ready to go again, you gotta land running, right? You know what I mean? Right. You hit the surface running, just like that old saying, right? Same kind of thing, right? Okay. So, and of course there's potential risks. I'll mention that, of course. It can be very demanding. If you warm up thoroughly though, and you build your intensity gradually, if you're new at it, like I said, of course, allowing at least 48 hours between hard sprint sessions. Stop if you experience sharp pain, chest pain, or any significant dizziness, of course. So there are a lot of cool benefits to sprinting. I hope that you kind of understand, even though I know that it cannot, sometimes it's not going to feel comfortable. There are going to be days you're not going to want to go out there, but I highly encourage you. Again, I am a retired professional athlete. Call it what you want. I was required not only from the team, we couldn't take sick days. I couldn't call in sick and say, sorry, coach, I can't make it to practice today. I'm not feeling good. That was not an option. They would say, okay, don't, come to the stadium and don't feel good. You got to be here at the stadium while you're not feeling good. Part of it was getting treatments and things like that, but my point is that I've kind of learned, and this is that professional athlete in me, is that, commitment is a big deal. And when you think about, the consequences of not showing up, or kind of, you get used to it. You're like, oh, it wasn't so bad. Next thing you know, you're missing more days. You're like, oh, I remember last week I don't feel good again today. Man, just you embrace the suck, as Tom Brady and a lot of Goggins would say, in a different language, of course, with him, as far as the expletive language. I can't speak today. With regards to just, understanding there's going to be a commitment, and then just do yourself a favor. You're going to feel good about it. Get it done. They say, starting a workout program and showing up to do the workout program is the hardest part about it. Okay. Yes, you're right. I've mentioned to you guys before, long time ago, when I was talking about my title boxing. When I first started title boxing, I wasn't one that was outboxing the bag, trying to, just be a hero every day. I was pacing myself and I was still tired. That tells you how out of shape I was. And I would hesitate to turn into the parking lot. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here again? But once the round started, I hit the bag a couple times and coach gives you a combination. Your mind just goes blank and you start just you forget like, oh, I forgot that I was going to not like it here today. But I did. I enjoyed it. I had a good time. And so you never know unless you actually, do the things that you committed to do. And so that's my biggest thing, obviously, with talking about sprints and how beneficial they are. Any sort of anaerobic sort of agility type of workouts are very good for your muscles, your body, your hormones, everything I mentioned before, obviously. But more so is the commitment too. It's hard to be committed to something like that. Again, you have to make it part of your daily routine, and that's a must. Now, again, I've posted on social media. I've mentioned things about how important is your health to you. It's your choice. You want to, later on down but that's the problem is people get a little deceived in a way where they're thinking they can, again, the ones that, trust their doctors in a sense where, oh, I got a pill for that. Oh, there's a pill for that. Let me look at the PDR. Well, I'll find you something for that. Instead of doing the work, they're trying to fix problems with pills. I'm trying to fix problems with healthy nutrition, exercise, strength, sleep, stress relief, all that stuff, everything, all the above that are natural things. And you don't have to even see a doctor. You keep your health under check and you won't even have to see a doctor because, again, we are proactive. We are not reactive. I don't ever want to be in a situation where I find myself having to react to a problem that I caused myself because of things I didn't do in the health and wellness industry type of, in the health and wellness fields like exercise, nutrition, all my supplements, things like that. So I love to experiment on stuff, and I've been a personal witness to exercise. I'm 54 years old today, and I swear to you guys, I feel like I'm in my 20s. I've probably said this before, I jump out of bed. I literally throw my legs up in the air and I whip myself right up and I'm like, okay, here we go. I can tell you 54-year-olds, there's not a lot of them on this planet that can do that. I mean, maybe there are a lot, but I'm telling you, there's a huge number of people in their older ages, that struggle to get out of bed every morning. And I'm not one of them, and I want to not be one of them for a very long time. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed the information tonight. Take it serious in a sense where, it's beneficial. I know a lot of people don't think of sprinting being beneficial. They probably think of sprinting as, heck no, I will never do that. Well, again, I want to ease your mind thinking that sprinting isn't 90 to 95%, even though I mentioned it. I have some more for people who are experienced, 70%, 60%. It doesn't matter. Get out and move. As long as you're out moving, even if you start by walking, it's fine. Walk for a little bit, rest for a little bit. Walk for a little bit, rest for a little bit. Even if you're that in a situation where you've got some health issues that won't allow you to even run or jog, it's fine. Get out and move. Now, again, consult your doctor if you have to, and don't do anything too extensive. Which it's hard to go. It's hard to overdo something when you're in a position where you need some help with your health and fitness and things like that. Usually I say we because I was one of them. We're out of shape, and this is gonna be tough to do, but just do it. Embrace the suck, and just know that you're doing yourself a benefit in the long run. And hopefully by then it'll become a habit, and it won't be so hard. I am telling you from personal experience. And it might take people a little bit longer at certain periods of time in their lives, but once you establish a lifestyle that you really know is working, and I'm at that point right now, I can honestly tell you, I don't remember being in this good of shape and mentally and physically and all of the above as I am right now, presently today. I'm feeling fabulous. I'm doing peptides. I'm doing, proactive wellness supplements. I'm doing, hydrogen water. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I've got a list of things that I do on a daily basis. Raw liver frozen chunks of raw liver. How about that one? Okay. I take the avocado pits. I'll blend them up into a little powder. Put them in capsules. Eggshells for my calcium. I'll blend them up into a little powder. Put them in capsules. I promise you. Call me strange, but I do a lot of things. I've done some research on certain benefits of things, with regards to health benefits, and so I definitely am doing the best I can. And again, I'm your guinea pig. I know everyone's different, but I'm going to be the one that's going to try all these things. And that's what Zealous Wellness is all about. That's what I've been trying. I'm about to add another company on my Zealous Wellness website. It is a protein company, protein shake, which I have done some research on and I love. It's amazing. But you guys will find out more information about that when that's posted. So I hope you guys enjoyed the information tonight. Sorry, I went over a little bit. And definitely we'll see you guys next Monday night at 5:30 on Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis. I love you all. You guys have a great evening, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis.
Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you next time.